Hey, good afternoon, good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? Victoria, nod if you can hear me. Okay, perfect. So my name is Charlotte. I'm Director of Admissions at Polygence, and it's a pleasure to be here today. We have lots of attendees, and this is really exciting. I'll be talking about the program, and we have two guests here today. I will briefly introduce them, and then I will go on to talking a bit about the program. So first, I would like to introduce one of our mentors who's here today, Selena. She's truly fantastic. She's worked with several students, and she's one of our very own mentor ambassadors. She's generously volunteered some of her time to join us on this panel, and we really appreciate that. So you as an audience, you will have a chance later to ask Selena any questions that you may have. She's currently an immunology PhD student at Duke University, and she studies how the immune system is impacted by brain cancer. And her ultimate goal in research is to try to help create better treatment options for cancer patients. So welcome, Selena. Thank you so much. We also have Anna, who is a Polygence student ambassador, and I've had the pleasure of working with her, and it's fantastic to see her. She's smart, she's ambitious, she's very friendly. And so, get your questions ready for Anna as well. Anna, very quickly, do you want to just say a brief word about yourself, like what grade you're in, the project you completed with Polygence, and anything else you feel is relevant?
Yeah, sure. Hi guys, I'm Anna. I am a junior currently, and I had the pleasure of working with Polygence on an article that I published in August, and it was basically about Russia's political future, and I got to interview a lot of college students, and overall, it was a really cool experience.
Well, thank you so much, Anna. I appreciate that. So I think that we're just going to dive right in. I'll be talking for about 10 minutes or so, and then Victoria, who will join us in 1 second, will introduce a little bit more about the program to us. So let's dive in. Polygence, an online research academy for intellectually driven students. And so I'll be talking about Polygence. Why would you choose Polygence? What is the program structure? And then, of course, Victoria and I will be asking questions of Anna and Selena, and then there'll be Q&A. So leave your questions in the Q&A field, and we will get to them at the end, I promise. So Victoria, if you can switch, there we go. So about Polygence. So what I really want to emphasize here about the program is that, okay, it's not a lecture class, it's not a cookie cutter experience, but what we're really saying is that every student is unique, every student needs kind of different kind of support, different kind of like educational program, different kind of research project, and we really believe in tailoring our program for what students need. And so you as a student, you get to really design your own project with the help of an expert. And we happen to have an expert here, Selena. Selena is one of our experts. The program is really flexible, so this is a big plus. It's online, so you could be working with a mentor, on the other side of the country, potentially on the other side of the world, and no time zones are, they're not an issue. Mentors and students make it work. It's 100% one-on-one mentor-student, and you have control over when and how frequently you meet your mentor. So that flexibility is really helpful, especially in the summer if you have a lot of other programs going on and that kind of thing. We're also really proud of the final products. And so Anna briefly spoke about her publication, which is definitely a path you can go down. So like writing a research paper or an article and publishing it. But we also have a lot of different products that can come out of your work with a mentor. Conference presentation, symposium presentation, like today. I saw a presentation where somebody published their own children's book, for example. So there you go. So there's a lot that you can do. Sky is the limit. If you have any questions about that, we have a great page on our website called the Project Spotlight page, which Victoria, if you could actually link that in the chat, that would be awesome. You could see what other students have completed for their projects. So next slide, why Polygence? There's a lot of programs out there, and so why would you choose Polygence? What does it offer? So I think there's a number of things that it offers. I'm going to go through them briefly. So first, you can explore disciplines outside the curriculum. So at school, you have, there's a few ways of looking at this. So you have, different classes. You have bio, you have chem, you have English. And so one thing you could do with Polygence is you can create kind of this interdisciplinary project that covers multiple different fields, but you can also kind of dig into one field. So if you're really interested in bio, but you're interested also like in genetics and you want to know more about that, you can really dive in and get like really kind of specific in your topic. Something that actually I feel you can't really, maybe you could do it like senior year of college, like for your capstone or something, kind of like go into that detail. So it's just like you're ahead of the game almost if you're doing that as a high schooler already. It's really impressive. Polygence also offers access to a global network of researchers. And you saw this today, for example, with our keynote speaker, with our wonderful mentors. It's just this amazing network of really smart, ambitious, friendly people. You could produce showcaseable products, which I mentioned before, publications, presentations, websites, and you can test drive your college major. So I think it gives you a leg up because you can try something out, see if you kind of like it. And if you don't, well, then you know that for your college major. And if you love it, then you're kind of ahead of the game. And you could build a unique and personalized intellectual portfolio. So these are some of the reasons why you might choose Polygence. And Victoria, if you could switch to the next slide. So what makes for a strong candidate for Polygence? So as director of admissions, I've interviewed lots of students. So I really know the answer to this. So let me tell you, this is not like a traditional program where it's about grades or like SAT scores or anything like that. It's actually about your motivation. Why do you want to undertake, the study of the particular topic that is bringing you to Polygence? Are you able to talk about your interests, not talk necessarily all about the topic because you're learning, you may not know a lot about it, but can you elaborate on your interests and your goals in the program? And I just want to know about your relevant experience. So kind of depends on the field. Sometimes like with a computer science project, it's important to have, like a year of coding experience so that you're actually able to say, develop an app, which might be your goal. But you don't necessarily, at least not for all fields, need to have a lot of experience. It could be something that's very new for you, something you just want to dive into. And what we're interested in when you're filling out the application is, what kind of brought you to this topic? And I just really want to hear about it when I'm reading your application. So that's a little bit about what makes a strong candidate. You can ask questions about that after if you want. The application process. So let me just briefly tell you about this. So you create a student account on polygence.org. Be sure to click student. So we have student profiles and parent profiles and so on. So you pick student. You complete an application, and the application deadlines are on the 15th of each month. The admissions team reviews your application, and it's a 2 weeks estimated wait time. Sometimes it's less. And then you would pay your tuition, which is the first of 4 payments. And the mentor match then occurs afterwards, and then you begin your project. And so now I'm going to pass the mic to Victoria, who's going to talk a little bit about the project milestones and what the program looks like when you're actually in it. Thanks, Victoria.
Of course, thank you, Charlotte. So hello, everyone. For those of you who I haven't met yet, I'm Victoria. I am the lead organizer for today's symposium, and I also work a lot with active projects. So projects that are between when they sign up and when they complete their project, I help make sure that everything goes smoothly. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what a project looks like when it's in progress. So the typical student journey follows these milestones that are outlined on this slide. The first session with the mentor is really an introductory session to get to know one another, to talk a little bit about project goals and research questions, just to get a sense of what the remainder of the project will look like. By session 3, we ask students to submit their abstract and their research question. Session 3 is kind of that sweet spot in your 10-session program where you have a bigger sense of what it is that you want to dive deeper into, and you're able to write that abstract. After session 4, having a one-page outline of the full project structure so that we know for the remainder of the 6 sessions what it is that you're going to dive into, that's a really helpful document. By session 6, you should have a draft of around half of your project. Session 9 is really when you have that first draft of the entire project ready to go. And then of course, by the last session, session 10, you have your final draft, which is ready for submission. And of course, at this point is when we ask you to turn in your project and can help with showcasing if you're interested in showing your presentation or your project other places. And after this 10 session, we recommend students submit these 2 drafts to the project review program for detailed feedback from other mentors. And so, of course, throughout your 10 session project, you'll be able to get multiple rounds of feedback from your one-on-one mentor. But just for that second and maybe third pair of eyes, we ask that students submit to other mentors too, just to make sure everything looks great.
Thanks so much, Victoria. So that's a little bit of an overview of the program. And I will tell you, when I talk to parents, and I talk to a lot of parents, there's often this concern like, okay, so the student's undertaking their own project, they're working with a mentor, but is there kind of a structure to the program? And my student may not be ready to take on full responsibility of the project and may need, a fair amount of help. And so what I always say is mentors are not just like on the sidelines saying yes or no. They're not just bystanders to the project. It's the student and mentor really working together, but we also have the program behind you to help structure it. And so I just wanted to emphasize that. And thanks so much, Victoria, for talking about that. So some common questions in Q&A. So I guess I have some questions and you may have some questions too, audience. But why don't we start with Selena and Anna? I'm going to ask you some of these questions here, and I would love to hear your thoughts about this. So first, how did you become interested in your topic or your field? Selena, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, good question. So as Charlotte said before, I actually studied brain cancer, and I study how it impacts the immune system. And so I've always been really interested in biology from high school. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with that. Been interested in cancer and knowing that that's something where there's a lot of research that can help patients and there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And so given my interest in both biology and cancer, as I sort of progressed along my educational path through college, became more interested in the immune system, because you can actually use the immune system to fight off cancer in a treatment called immunotherapy. So it's kind of what I study now. It really just sort of blew my mind when I learned about the immune system and sort of the power that you can harness there to fight off tumors. And so I really wanted to do something, those are my academic interests, and I really wanted to do something where I could help patients. And so I wanted to use my sort of skills and academic interests to help patients. And so that is my goal for my PhD currently and what I'm studying.
And so what brought you to Polygence? Like, what is it like being a mentor and working with students who are interested in the field, or at least, tangentially?
Yeah, I absolutely love it, as you can probably tell. I've mentored a number of students, but brought me to Polygence. I met with our director of mentors who told me sort of that exactly what you've discussed here today, Victoria and Charlotte. But this is the first time I'd heard of a program like this for high schoolers. This is something that it didn't exist, or I wasn't aware of it when I was in high school, but would have absolutely loved to do while I was in high school. So I really like sort of seeing the next generation of scientists or researchers asking really interesting questions. And so I'm 4 years into my PhD right now, and I can tell you that very candidly, I have been incredibly impressed with the students that I've mentored. They come in really excited, passionate, curious, ready to learn, and they ask really thoughtful questions that I certainly don't think that I would have been prepared to ask at that stage. So it's really cool to see students sort of make connections, put things together, and ask sort of the next step question and move through their research in an independent manner. It's exciting to see high schoolers being able to do that and getting more excited about continuing to stay in this field and sort of make a difference on their own.
That makes a lot of sense to me. I totally understand. I was a professor before, and I actually left my position to join Polygence because I'm just really inspired by what I see in the students and the projects and the mentors. So
I think that, I was just going to say, I think Polygence specifically, it is a little bit different too. I've tutored some students before, which is great, but Polygence is different because instead of saying, you are going to study X, let me teach this to you, it's really, let me take a back seat and support you in whatever endeavor you want to pursue. And I think also it's a space where as a mentor, I feel extremely valued. And I can also see that the students are really valued as well. Like you said, sort of on an individual basis. As a mentor, if I need extra resources, the Polygence team is there, and I do message and I ask them, my students interested in publishing here, what are your thoughts on this? And we sort of all work together to give the students the best experience possible. So that's been really great to have sort of teammates that have your back as well.
That's really good to hear. And yeah, actually, on that note, I would love to hear, Anna, what do you think about the Polygence experience that you had? So, what did you come in wanting to do? What was your experience like? Did you find that kind of individual attention that Selena's talking about? And I'd love to hear your experience a little bit.
So I came into the program wanting to sort of deepen my knowledge of politics in Russia, and I've always been very passionate about reading independent journalists in Russia. Obviously, very relevant right now, but I wanted to sort of join that movement of, harnessing journalism to amplify people's voices. And so I found it really, really inspiring as an experience because I was able to publish something and, tell people stories, and that was a really cool experience. And I actually used the knowledge I gained of, how to publish an article, how to pitch an article to a news source, a news outlet, to continue publishing articles. And it's been really cool.
So good to hear. That's wonderful, Anna. And it's just so good to see you again. It's been like 4 months, so it's great. I was out on maternity leave, everybody who's out there in the audience, that's why. And so another question I have then, and I always love hearing the answers to this question, just generally, like, what surprised you along the way? That's the thing that I most love about research, actually, really, is the surprises. And when you kind of like hit a wall and you're like, how am I going to get over this? How am I going to figure it out? And then like you surprise yourself and you learn something new. And I mean, this is for real. I'm not just saying this. It's really cool how that happened. So Anna and Selena, like, what has surprised you along the way in your work with Polygence? Anna, if you want to go first, if you could think of something. Or Selena.
It was difficult structuring an article at first, and that's kind of strange to admit now, but it's, every piece you write, I guess, depending on what you're writing, like if it's a paper, an article, whatever your intention is, especially if you're a student that hasn't like ventured into that type of writing professionally, it can be startling at first. And you're working with a mentor who's like very experienced in that realm. So it can be a little intimidating at first. But you sort of you learn to tackle it. And when you you learn a lot from the experience, and you grow a lot, definitely.
How did your mentor help you learn how to structure an article like that? Like, can you think of anything specific that your mentor did in guiding you? I'm actually just curious.
I mean, I remember I wrote a rough draft, and she, during one of our sessions, we went through my article and she gave me feedback. And she also gave me examples of articles that are unrelated, but like of structures that might work for the type of article that I was writing, because I was like using lots of different interviews I took. And that was making it a little bit more challenging to blend it and make it more seamless. And so, yeah, that helped a lot.
That's great. Yeah, it can get pretty clunky, right? If you have like too many interviews, you have to find a way to like integrate it. It can be hard. So I get what you're saying. Yeah. And Selena, what have you found surprising along the way?
And it's funny that those are your answers because I kind of had the same answers, but from the mentor perspective. I was actually going to say it's surprising and impressive to me every time I work with a student how much growth I see in those 10 sessions. Particularly, I mean, it makes sense that I think in an initial one-on-one meeting, it can be a little bit intimidating as a student. I imagine I would be intimidated. So it's a big goal of mine in that first session to just make it clear, this is a discussion, we're a team, we're working together on this. But sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to sort of have the student lead that first session. So I usually kind of take point on that. And by the end, we show up and I say, what do you need from this session? Like, how can I support you? And they really are taking initiative and taking point on the discussion and saying, I wrote this section. Here's what I think. I have questions about X, Y, and Z. Here's what was easy for me. Here's what I want to discuss. And sometimes it's tough to take a step back as a mentor and let that happen. But I'm always like happily surprised and impressed by the amount of growth that the students have in those sessions. And I think in terms of what mentors do to help students, I was actually going to say structuring the outline. Like you said, I think seeing examples is really helpful. So I think seeing examples of work that other people have done and not necessarily focusing on the content, but rather focusing on sort of what goes into writing a paper. What does it mean to have an abstract? What does it mean to write an introduction? Things like this to understand sort of the basic structure and the components that are involved. You can then apply that framework to your own project. So I think that's helpful as a mentor to keep in mind and to make sure that students understand. Yeah,
that's helpful. Selena, I saw you nodding when Anna mentioned like the structure. You're like, yeah,
like, man,
yeah.
we're on the same page here. It's great.
Yeah. So this is great. So we do have some questions from the audience, and so I will read them. And please, audience, put in as many as you have. We can always get answers from Anna and Selena after the presentation. I'm sure they would be happy to help. So Kamal asks, what's the best time to indulge and to research during high school years? So like, when do you think it's best? 9th grade, 10th grade? Why certain grades? Should it be during the summer, or, kind of what are your thoughts about this? I'd love to hear from both your perspectives. Selena.
Oh, I was going to let Anna go first because you've gone through this. So I'll let you answer first.
I would say it depends, because if you're in a really rigorous high school program like the IB, then it might be best for you to do a Polygence project like before your senior year. But I think honestly, like I really think that the summer is the best time in any case, because you can really focus on your project. And I think it could get a little bit stressful if you're doing a Polygence project your senior year of high school, when you have college apps and all of that happening at the same time. So, I mean, if you want to do a Polygence project 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, I don't really think it matters, as long as you are passionate about what you're doing and you have an idea that you want to execute. So yeah, I mean, I think your schedule best, and you should make sure that the time slot that you're allotting for your Polygence project is going to allow you to, grow the most and not be too stressed out.
Yeah, we definitely don't want this to be stressful.
It's true. And I was thinking, I've seen a lot of students go through the program during the school year and during the summer. And I think Anna's right about, it's just a question of kind of knowing yourself and knowing what works. But if you are unsure, you can always reach out to a member of the Polygence team, and we can kind of walk you through different like research scenarios, like if you do it during the year, how many months would be best, and we could kind of help
Mhm.
you figure that out. And Selena, do you have
Yeah.
any thoughts? I'm curious, what grade were the
do.
students? Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, I actually think it depends on what you want to get out of the program as a student. And so I've worked with younger students in ninth and 10th grade. I've also worked with high school seniors transitioning into freshman year of college. And as a mentor, I've really enjoyed working with like all years. And so I don't necessarily think there's a best time in that range. I think it really depends on the goal of the project. And I also think as a mentor in biology and science, it can be difficult to do a project if you, for example, haven't yet taken biology or chemistry in high school, depending on when you take those courses. So I think thinking critically about sort of the end product that you want to make, like, is your goal, I really want to publish a paper, I want it to be extensive, I want this review paper to be something I can put on my college application? Or is it, wow, I was really surprised by how interested I was in my freshman biology class, and I'd really like to learn about some real world examples, and I'm excited to sort of learn more about what's out there in research and medicine. I think both of those are really great applications for Polygence projects, but it just kind of depends what the student is looking for, which is something that I always focus on in session one. Sort of, what are your goals? What do you want to get out of this? And I would encourage students to think about that before getting started and choosing what time they want to start this program.
That's good to hear, because sometimes students say, I'm not sure exactly what I want to do, can you help me? And I say something like, what do you want to walk away with? Like, kind of, what are your goals? And that's, so you could start thinking about it from the end goal, actually, and kind of work backward.
Absolutely.
So that's helpful. Thank you so much. It's really helpful answer. And so there is one question here. I think, Anna, you're in the middle of answering Kevin, which is helpful. Thank you. Erin, what are the requirements to apply for Polygence? So I actually am going to put in the link to apply right now so everybody can see if you're interested in applying. Like I said, the next deadline is April 15th. And so the requirements are actually to think about what kind of project you want to undertake. Those are really the requirements. So for the application, you have to fill out, like basic information about yourself. But we're also looking to find out what is your field of interest. This is important because we have many mentors in different fields, and we need to know which mentor really is the best match for you. What kind of project are you thinking of undertaking? So do you kind of want to write a research paper? Are you open to different ideas, but kind of what are some of your interests? And any thoughts you have about the project. It's okay to not be sure, because that is the process of research, and it's totally fine to be uncertain. But I know when I'm reading these applications, it is helpful when I feel like the student is motivated, is inspired, has an idea of what they want to do, is open to making mistakes, totally okay, and all of that. So that's really what we're looking for. I want to briefly mention, if you want to do a science experiment and you need a lab, we don't provide a lab, so you would need to find a lab. You would need to know where you would get your materials. And then if you're looking to do a computer science project, we typically ask for 1 year of coding experience. So APCS typically would be what we're looking for, or equivalent experience. So those are kind of like some of the requirements. So we are out of time. Now, thank you so much, Selena, Anna, and Victoria. Really appreciate your time. Thank you to the audience. If you have any other questions, please email me. I'm putting my email in to the chat. Any questions you have for the panelists. And thank you all for attending today. It was great seeing you. Bye, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much.